Hey, my Legion, how y'all doing today? I'm back with a book of one of the most controversial comedians of all time. It's Andrew Dice Clay's The Filthy Truth. And basically, this is a book that starts off from him being in elementary school pretty much to present day. And it starts off in elementary school, him being running around in a Superman outfit. He wore his Superman outfit underneath his clothes, and then he decided to be Superman right in front of the class. His teacher calls his mother to the school, and his mother apparently was very defensive on Dice, and his family has been a very strong part of his life. And she was saying that what kids can't have imagination. She related to the teacher, and then it goes from there. It talks about his home life, and he calls his mom, dad, sister the originals in Brooklyn, New York. And his dad had a bunch of different businesses, and then talks about him after during high school. He was really proficient on the drums, and then him starting a career as a drummer. And from that drummer position, he became a comic, and he was a struggling comic. And then he finally in '82 he did a movie called Wacko, which I'd never seen, a horror movie comedy. And he did a bunch of small parts in the '80s. I'm surprised before that his first two roles, I guess, were in '81 he did a thing on the Evening at the Improv, which I'm surprised he didn't mention. And then in '82, before Wacko, he was on an episode of MASH. I'm really surprised he didn't mention that in the book because MASH is a huge show. And it goes all through all the things of him busting his butt pretty much, and also picking up a gambling addiction, a very bad gambling addiction, to Ronnie Dangerfield finally giving him his first major break, even though he had the TV show Crime Story a couple years back. The NBC had on for two seasons, and he had a decent role in that too. But he's considered Ronnie Dangerfield giving him his first break on an HBO special called Nothing Goes Right, and from then on he went on to do The Dice Man Cometh, his giant HBO show. And then after that, he started getting bad press, and a whole bunch of stuff happened, including his role in Saturday Night Live. He starred in that, and then a comedian called Nora Dunn, not Laura Dunn, Nora Dunn, decided to boycott the show, and Sinead O'Connor did too, because Nora did. And he's like, who the hell's Nora Dunn? And he said that she was on the show, and then later I found out, this is the one thing I didn't know in the book. It said that the real truth between the Nora Dunn boycott was next season she was being dropped from the show when she wanted to bring some positive attention to herself. She figured attacking Dice would have helped spin the story from comic gets fired or comic attacks, the comic attacks woman hater. And and she said in later interviews she wished she would have done the show because her career went in a tailspin after that. She was on an episode of Get a Life in '91. I remember seeing Fort Bragg, and then in like the mid to late '90s, she played like a detective on some murder mystery comedy with some college kids or something like that. I can't remember what it was on. I saw it on Cinemax once or twice, and that's the last I've seen of her. But I never thought she was funny. Anyways, on Saturday Night Live, when she left Saturday Night Live, I was like, good. I don't want to see the Sweeney sisters again. Me and my roommate. Well, anyways, goes on to that, and then it goes on him landing his big movie, Adventure of the Ford Fairlane, his first starring role. And then the critics were so harsh to the producers and stuff like that, they ended up dropping the film, even though it made a lot of money in the first couple weeks. And then after that, he lost his movie deal. His life started going in a tailspin. He doesn't mention his concert movie, Dice Rules, which actually I think the major film company dropped that movie, and then it got picked up by IRS Films later on in the late '90s, around I don't know in the mid '90s or something like that. I can't remember. And it goes right to Brain Smasher Love Story, which a stupid title and terrible movie in it, but Terry Hatcher was beautiful in it. And he was talking about that, and he talked about his affair with Terry Hatcher, and I don't blame him because she was really beautiful, especially in that movie. And then it goes from that, talks about his failed marriages and his really bad career downside. He talks about a couple other movies. He does not mention For Ladies Only, that special where he does like a pro female dice routine. He talks about more about his critic, and he says that one of his best things in his life were the birth of his kids. He talks about his kids and his wife, and he was actually a very good father to his kids. And it goes from there to like it struggles to get back to Madison Square Garden, and it talks more about his gambling addiction and a whole bunch of interesting things up to the Showtime special that I never heard of. He mentioned that. He mentions shows like Hits and Bless This House, and that was pretty much it. I mean, that's it. It's a very entertaining book. I really recommend it. I mean, if you like Dice, I know that Dice was very offensive to a lot of groups back in the late 80s, but I think people pretty much forgot about him or just, he was the very first victim of political correctness. 'Cause I remember seeing that one special on Primetime Live, really denouncing him. So there you have the book. As far as I'm concerned, it gets a 9 out of 10. It leaves out like Dice rules and a couple of things I wish they would have focused on, but the book for the most part is really entertaining. It's a really good quick read, and I enjoyed it very much. I want to thank Jody and Roland for giving me the Amazon card so I could order that off Amazon. That was awesome of you guys. And a shout out to Off Price Books for making a great deal on the book too. And there you have it. I want to talk about the impact Dice had in the Army. Now, I remember in the Army, this one girl who lived right next to me, Michelle, was telling me, "You got to see this guy. He looks like Elvis, and it's like nothing I ever seen before. It's really funny." And it was like a tape that was going all through the post in Girlstead, Germany. And I watched it. It's called The Dice Man. I was like, I've seen this guy before because he was busting his butt. He was in so many movies, small parts of movies. He was in like this real super low budget show on late night on Channel 24 called Comedy Tonight. He doesn't mention that in the book either. And I've seen the guy before, and he was in a movie called Casual Sex as the Vin Man, which I saw trailers for, but I did not see the movie at the theater. And I told the girl about that, and the movie was the concept was a big hit throughout the post. Lots of people were imitating Dice after that. It was really a phenomenal thing. I made a copy of the tape. I regret buying the tape Andrew Dice Clay, which is pretty much just the concert thing, which I pretty much knew because I've seen the concert a few times. And there was like a little 3-minute thing that wasn't on the tape. I regret buying that, but whenever I got out of the Army, well, before I got out of Germany, they had clips. I saw trailers for Adventures of Ford Fairlane, which I really wanted to see. Then when I got out of Germany, it ended up playing at the Village Cinema in the theater in Edinburgh. And it was cool because I was with my dad and we saw it on a double feature. It was, actually early in the day we saw Dick Tracy at the Mill Creek Mall. And then later that night we went to the Edinburgh Mall and saw 2 other movies. And it's weird, the first time I've ever seen a movie, 2 movies back to back directed by the same director. And it was Die Hard 2 by Rennie Harlin, which was awesome. And then Adventures of Ford Fairlane by Rennie Harlin, which was awesome. And it was weird because I saw Adventures of Ford Fairlane, and my friend John Walkwitz was working there too. And the theater was packed. And me and my dad were the only one laughing. The rest of the theater, it was dead silence. And then later on, when I went to Fort Bragg, I saw it again in the military theater, and all the soldiers in me went nuts. But in that one theater, man, no one was laughing but me and my dad. But I still think it's still one of my favorite movies. I think it's really funny. And I remember buying the book The Day Laughter, the double cassette, The Day Laughter Died, which was on an off night. And that was really an unusual unusual tape. But I enjoyed it. It's not like classic comedy. It's like an anti-comedy album, kind of. And then after that, like I said, he succumbed to political correctness. And I remember renting in Fort Detrick, I remember renting something called Him Live at the Laugh Factory. And that video sucked. It wasn't funny at all. And it seemed like he wasn't as funny after that. His movie Dice Rules, when I left Fort Bragg and left the Army, I saw Dice Rules was coming out on a list of new releases in like a couple weeks. I was like, crap, I missed it. And I didn't see it till later on Cinemax. And that wasn't a bad movie. I thought it was alright. It wasn't as good as Fort Fairlane, but it was okay. Then, like I said, he did Brain Smash, and that sucked. He did something, he caved in, he did something 42 Long, which was the last thing I actually bought of his cassette in 93. And then he did something called For Ladies Only, which was a tie-in on HBO, which is like a reverse Dice, where he said, like, women are so great and men suck and stuff like that, trying to kiss up. And it was an alright show. It wasn't bad. And then he did like a couple other shows like Assume the Position, which were okay. And then he did like a pay-per-view, which I didn't think was bad. And he did like a thing, say goodnight to the bad guy, which was straight out of Scarface, which I thought was lame. And the pay-per-view thing was back when we used to have a cool cable system where we used to get pay-per-view for free for a while. So I saw that for free because I didn't even know it was on. Later on, he did a show called Bless This House, which I never saw because I never knew when it was on. And I had to work, that's when I was working night shift. I missed all that. I never saw any episodes of that. And then he was on a show called Hits, which I stumbled upon on UPN just by accident. I taped it. I did tape that when I went to work. I knew when that was on. And I watched like 4 or 5 episodes, then it got canceled. But I thought Hitch wasn't a bad show. And from then, he was on Dice, and Dice was saying he's not funny anymore. And I remember he was promoting an album like you get through the mail called Filth. And I don't know, that's like $20-some. I said, I ain't buying that damn thing. And I'm surprised he didn't mention that comedy album either. And that was just one, you special ordered through this company. And I didn't care for that. He was on Bill Maher, Politically Incorrect, and he was making everybody mad. And Bill Maher was saying like, I didn't get anything done. I wonder why. And he was looking right at me. And he said, I ain't saying nothing more. Dice said that. And it was okay. I mean, I remember that show from like maybe 99, 2000, early 2001, I think. That's back when the whole Monica Lewinsky thing was going. Maybe it was early now. I can't remember. And I saw him on little clips on Full Frontal Comedy and Cinemax, and then I saw him on. They had True Hollywood Story, Andrew Dice Clay, which was really good. I like that. Back when I used to watch He, I don't watch He at all anymore, except for Total Divas. And then he did a reality show on VH1 back in 2006, which is amazing. It didn't seem like it was that long ago. I can't remember what it was called. It's called Dice something, Dice Cometh, or I can't remember what it was called. I have to look it up. But I mean, the show was all right. He said it was shit though, but I thought it was okay. And you saw his kids in there and stuff, and that was okay. That lasted one season. Then they had the Tom Sizemore one, which was a real train wreck. But it showed Dice at his less successful levels. So I think it was more humbling to him, and he was trying to get his book done, and then. And they said he won $1 million, and they said he wasn't a big name anymore and stuff like that. And then from that's last I saw him, and he was on Celebrity Apprentice a couple years back. He doesn't mention that in his book either. He was the first one to get fired, and he was not on the Celebrity Apprentice final episode where they have it live. He was not on. He did not come to that. And last time I saw him after that was a month or two ago on Travis Smiley on PBS of all places. I missed the first half. I watched the second half. I found out. And I found out he was coming back. He was making a book. And then he said he had like a Showtime special, and he was on Entourage. And I didn't see any of that stuff. He was on a Woody Allen movie, which I didn't see. So there you have it. He was also in a movie in '94, because I hated Brain Smash, but not too long after on Cinemax. He was in a movie called No Contest. He played a really bad guy. And I like that movie, and they don't mention that. It's a little far-fetched in the action. But they don't mention that in the book either. I mean, the book is really good. Like I said, 9 out of 10. They leave out a decent amount of stuff. They could add another 100 pages. Talked a little bit more about his struggle with all the tax and stuff. But for most parts, it was pretty good. And he was like a big influence in the Army. Not on me, but he made a real name for himself before he started going downhill. But I remember when he started getting attacked, he was in Hustler for Asshole of the Week because he started getting in the critics. He was crying on Arsenio Hall. I remember seeing that. It was something else. It was a big, because up until a week or two after Ford Fairlane and the Saturday Night Live, his career was going up, and then it started going down, and then it was like a roller coaster after that. So there you have it. 9 out of 10 for Andrew Dice Clay's The Filthy Truth, plus some other information about my following his career. So until next time, everybody, please take care of my legion. And he doesn't mention being on Amazon Women on the Moon either, which was another good. He had a good little part in that one too. All right, take care, everybody.